And good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special Monday edition of Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. I am Ethan Greenberg, and I am here alongside of my co-host. Well, I guess I need to point this way to my co-host, Madison Delaney, and we are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. You can follow me on Twitter at egreen4325. Follow Madison at MadTravels24, and be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Going nuCLEar CLE. Also, watch us on YouTube. Feel free to drop us a line while we are on the show. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to the channel, and pardon me here, got to do a quick settings change here. And there we go. All right, technical difficulties. I guess that's what we get when we're doing this fresh on a Monday night. I got it flowing on another screen, and I'm like, why am I hearing myself? That's why I'm hearing myself. Fantastic. So, yes, again, folks, it's a special Monday edition of Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. Yeah, parenting duty has come about for me. I get to go to a band concert on Thursday. Isn't that exciting?
It sounds like a good time to me. I mean, I get to go to a happy hour trivia now, but you, I think, win.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It'll be fantastic. Hearing all the holiday classics played by the middle school band, yeah, good times. Just great times being a parent here. So, as I said, it's a victory Monday. It's a victory Monday. Are we excited after watching the Browns with the 27-14 win over the Texans with Deshaun Watson at the helm? What's your take on that?
I don't know if excited is the right word. That whole game was just really bizarre, I think, from literal start to finish, with that first pass that popped up for a pick, right on down to some of the weird turnovers, Deshaun Watson to run the ball into the dirt. No offensive touchdowns, but still putting up points, which is very unlike us. So, I mean, the whole thing was weird. But I don't know that you can get too excited about the defensive performance, just given the opponent, is kind of the hard part, I think. What about you?
Well, absolutely. You touched on a few things that I have written down here that I wanted to talk about. The defensive performance, you look at it and you go, hey, was that a really good performance, or is it just against a crappy team? And I'm going to have to say that it's more so that the Texans are that crappy of a team, not so much the defense in and of itself. However, I will say that the fact that we saw some progress in the special teams, Donovan Peoples-Jones coming up with that punt return, hey, that's huge. And again, I understand that we're playing the worst team in the league. The Texans, they're obviously in a lose now mode, as they are looking for a top draft pick. They've got to get themselves another franchise quarterback, so on and so forth. So you have to temper it with that. You have to put that little asterisk next to the W. But the long and the short of it is, a win is a win. A win is a win, and it was nice to see some progress there from the special teams. It was also good to see the defense step up, because that's what good teams need to do. They need to beat the bad teams. You got to take care of business. It wasn't the way you necessarily pictured it, but it got the job done. So yesterday, the big news, of course, we got Deshaun Watson back on the field. This was the big acquisition. We have been waiting all season for this. And he was rusty. Rusty Watson. Yep, that about sums it up there. Glad to see Factory of Sadness for Life back with us. He in his absence last week. We missed him. So glad to have him back. But yeah, Deshaun Watson, a little bit rusty. And I saw a stat. He actually did pretty well when the pocket was clean for him. But under duress, not so good. He had some glimpses there, some moments where he was able to break contain and get some yardage running. One of the good runs got called back on a call against DPJ was that an illegal block in the back, I believe, or
It might have been a block in the back. Either way, I didn't agree with the call. It was pretty soft. I think the broadcast even said it.
Right, right. Either way, it wasn't a great. It was a soft call, but it got called back. And they pointed out. I was listening to Cleveland Sports Radio this morning, and they were talking about how after a penalty on one of those plays, Watson was able to scramble and pick up big yards and get them in position close enough. They didn't convert that third down, but it put it in field position for York to come on and make a makeable field goal. That was important for him to get all of his kicks through the uprights, and they took advantage of what they had. Again, defense, it was nice to see some of these guys make plays, but it was also a tough day for the defense because Sione Takitaki, who had been stepping up and balling out, he's done for the season. Torn ACL. How much does that hurt the Browns defense and the linebackers? Now you're down you're Anthony Walker, Jacob Phillips, and Sione Takitaki. I mean, unbelievable the bad break there for the defense that you lose Takitaki. So what what are they going to do there? I don't know who the dork is who finally made his money yesterday. Maybe he's talking about Denzel Ward. I'm not so sure, but
it could be Denzel. It could be York. It could be a typo. I'll give the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, you never know.
Not particularly close to the Y, but yeah, I mean, they're thin in that position, and they made a trade before the deadline to try to fill some of that gap that was left. But obviously, they're down a couple more. JOK is out there, but probably not 100%. I don't think. I mean, he's missed some time here and there, so that obviously hurts you. And I don't know if we have people on the practice squad we can bring up, but we probably should at least, I think, give ourselves a little cushion there, since it seems that's an area we can't seem to stay healthy in.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I did just get some clarification. York equals dork. I get it. That's right on point there. No, I looked it up, and so our linebackers are as follows. We've got JOK. We've got Deion Jones, who we signed off, from the Falcons. Then you've got Tony Fields and Jordan Kanashik.
Yeah.
That doesn't, give me great confidence when we talk about those names. You combine that with the porous defensive line, the interior, which has just been brutalized all season. And that's going to be problem. That's going to be problematic. And so I will be very interested to see how they perform against the Bengals on Sunday. Joe Burrow is hitting his stride. The Bengals are hitting their stride. They once again took down the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. They seem to have their number almost like the Browns having Joe Burrow's number. Denzel Ward, he has played well in the past against the Bengals, and factory status for life. He's not such a big fan of Denzel Ward's. He has a problem staying healthy, but when healthy, he's not horrible. I've certainly seen worse. Although he's not making the kind of money, I would argue Greedy Williams is a little worse than Denzel Ward. But I hear you on that one about Denzel Ward. So we've got a tough task at hand. Going into the jungle against the Bengals, and it's going to take a full team effort. You're going to need to have complementary football as always, but it's going to be particularly important. They've got to get more out of Deshaun Watson, and the receiving core got dealt a couple of more blows yesterday. Bell I believe he's day-to-day with an injury to his hand. He left in the first quarter. Then Schwartz, I feel bad for the guy. Did you happen to read, I don't know if you happen to read, Ashley Baystock at the Plain Dealer wrote a great article about the mental health struggles that Schwartz was going through. I think mostly related to the pressures of the job. and of being a professional receiver and the drops and everything like that. It's important to, you want to support the guy, but gee whiz, sure does make it hard. You go out in the first quarter and you make a catch and then you fumble the stinking ball. So the Browns receiving core takes another hit there as he goes out in the concussion protocol. Who does Watson have to throw to?
Yeah, we're running a little bit thin. I was actually listening to another podcast. I think we only dressed 5, and had we lost one more, we would have been in real bad shape because we only dressed 5 receivers and I think only 2 tight ends yesterday. And then I think Harrison Bryant went under the medical tent for a minute as well, which, he came back in, so he's cleared, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I think Mike Woods gets a chance now, I guess. And he, had a pretty good looking preseason. And then he got hurt and kind of fell behind a bit. Hopefully we can have somebody step up. I mean, it's going to be a little hard. Demetric Felton played a lot of snaps yesterday. And he's flashed, but we just, we've had a healthy scratch. We've not dressed him. So, I don't know if he can kind of play that same role. He's not obviously as fast as Schwartz in terms of kind of a decoy, but he is pretty shifty. Njoku was hurt yesterday too. I think he hurt his knee for a factory of sadness down there. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Njoku's back. That'll help a ton, I think, because I think Watson really likes his tight end to, kind of be an outlet for him. So hopefully that helps. And that's kind of like a receiver with the way that Njoku kind of plays that position more so than some other guys. He can make some catches in tight spaces that, other people can't get. So I guess we'll see. It's not going to be easy at this point in the season, but you're hoping somebody steps up in place of injured guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Njoku thing is kind of understated. I read about Njoku and his injury. He was actually injured before that last touchdown catch that he made against the Buccaneers, which makes that even more impressive. He is going to be a key for the Browns on Sunday, as they are. Quite frequently, we are the land of injuries. We tend to have some issueage with that. It's not always a good thing. But I think there's a couple of things we got working for us. Look, we've still got our running game. I will say the offensive line, as much as they get the props, they need to I think they're going to have to retool that a little bit there going into the next season. I don't know what's going to happen at the center position, what's going to, with Nick Harris, or if we're going to get Posick back. What are we going to do there? We got to do something to shore up the offensive line. They might need to be looking for a new left tackle, because I don't know if Jed Wills is the guy. It's kind of questionable, and it's also questionable. I mean, about Conklin, Teller, but Bill Callahan just does a phenomenal job with those guys. Chubb, he still managed to have 17 carries, 80 yards yesterday. Hunt was a beast coming in.
Yeah, he had a better day for sure.
9 carries, 56 yards, 7 a carry. That's fantastic. He can be a weapon. I don't know what it is. Maybe look, you got to play it one game at a time, obviously. But I'm not going to count the Browns out yet. I know Joe Burrow is great. I know Tony Grossi loves that guy. Okay? But for some reason, matchups make the game. Matchups make the game. So we shall see. And good point here about the Pro Bowl. They're going to start voting and so on and so forth. Nick Chubb in. I was thinking Joel Bitonio as well would probably be deserving. He's pretty damn good. He's one of the offensive linemen that you don't worry about on a weekly basis here. So we shall see, and hopefully Watson is a little bit better. He'll have another full week of practice with the guys, and he said so much, after the game about the nerves and that going into it. it was obviously a pretty big deal. And as he talked about, he really felt the fact that he had been off for 700 days, almost 2 complete calendar years from the last time he took a regular season snap, um, or a meaningful game snap, from the playoffs or the end of the regular season till now. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Browns do. Of other note here, again, not looking too far ahead. If the Browns should manage to win on Sunday, the game versus the Ravens just got moved into the Saturday afternoon slot on Saturday the 17th, taking on the Ravens in Cleveland for Watson's debut at home. And the Ravens, they've got their own issues. They squeaked by the Broncos yesterday. And in the game, you got Lamar Jackson going down with a knee injury, and Huntley comes in and keeps them alive and comes up with the drive at the end of the game. It was aided by a couple of penalties. And I got to say that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, I think he's playing himself out of a big contract. I think that he is trying to gamble on himself. And because of the way he plays the game and is in danger's way, he's not a huge guy like Roethlisberger. He's not even a big guy like Burrow, for that matter. He's kind of a slight body type, and the way he plays, he's going into harm's way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like last year too, he like started off pretty strong, and then towards the end of the year, kind of fell apart. I mean, he had the 4 interception game against the Browns in the back half of the season. I think it was last year. So that seems to be kind of the trend, and like people were thinking, oh, they figured him out. And then this year he kind of came out on fire a bit again, and then obviously they blew a lot of fourth quarter leads. That kind of thing at the beginning of the year. I was a little surprised they flexed it, but I guess they had to make that call. I think they could have it their way. They'd prefer to wait and see what we do at Cincinnati. But I do think, Watson, I think they'll open the playbook up for him. So hopefully we can try to sneak a win out there because it's probably going to have to be a shootout. I don't think we can contain Burrow to get to that meaningful Ravens game, I would say. I think if you lose, it takes a little bit of the air out of it. But it still is the home opener for Watson, at least. So that does give a little bit of an interesting spin to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to give the national audience something that people are going to want to tune into. The bottom line is the NFL is a business. They're all about making money. The fact that the game in Houston was in such a small pocket, the Cleveland area and the Houston area, and it just shows that, I mean, there wasn't much interest, especially with Houston being as bad as they are. So a chance to flex them is a good thing. They've had some national games, they've had some clunkers. They really have. I mean, when you looked at it, I'm sure the Monday night matchup between the Colts and the Steelers last week wasn't as big of a matchup as you had hoped when you put the schedule together. Even tonight, this showdown between the Saints and the Buccaneers, the Saints are a big 4-8, and the Buccaneers are 5-6 and leading the division. So there's not much to select from. So hey, I'm happy about it. It's a Saturday game, and that could be good. There's no college football or no that I know of or that I care about watching on that Saturday. So it's all good. It is in fact all good. So now moving forward, taking a further look at what's coming up for the Browns here. You got Cincinnati, then Baltimore. Then you come after the game, the Baltimore game, you've got New Orleans, followed by Washington on the road, and then Pittsburgh on the road. I'm not one to in my heart of hearts, I don't think we can run the table, especially the way Watson played.
Yeah.
I do see a path. Those are all. I'm not scared by any of those teams. The teams I'm scared about most would definitely be Cincinnati 1 and Baltimore 2. But if Baltimore's without Jackson, that makes that a little bit easier of a task. They've got injury problems of their own.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this whole thing with Cincinnati and seeming to have their number, makes it a interesting possibility. There's Factory of Sadness for Life's predictions: loss, win, etc. I'm looking, and the other thing that's important here is the schedule. In looking at the schedule game, if you look at Cincinnati's schedule, they've got the Browns this week.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're at Tampa Bay. That's not, even though Tampa Bay is not playing great, it's at Tampa Bay. Who knows? You just,
Still
you don't
Tom
know.
Brady.
It is
Yeah.
still Tom. That's exactly right. It's still Tom Brady. Then they're at New England. Now, again, that is such a toss up there. You don't know what you're going to see out of the Patriots, but it's Bill Belichick. He can
Mm-hmm.
scheme. And I don't count them out. That's my point on that. I don't count them out. Then they are home to Buffalo on January 2nd, Monday night, and that's no easy task.
Right.
And then they're home for Baltimore. They don't have an easy path. Okay, so
Right.
they're not a lock. The Ravens, they've got the easiest path. They are at Pittsburgh this weekend. Then they're in Cleveland. They've got Atlanta at home, Pittsburgh at home on New Year's Day, and then at the Bengals. Browns got to win and hope that maybe Pittsburgh picks up a victory. So bottom line, it is a long shot. I'd put some, like a 10 spot, on the Browns to win the division or something like that, because it's not completely out of the question, but yeah, nothing more than that. That's about as slim, much confidence I have in that as any.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh is like kind of getting it together a little bit towards the end. I mean, Kenny Pickett's not throwing interceptions anymore. He may not be leading a ton of touchdown drives, but he's not throwing interceptions quite as frequently as he was to start. Well, when he started playing earlier in the year. So I mean, it's doable. And I mean, the Ravens have blown losses in the fourth quarter. You always get like a team that you don't expect to beat somebody, kind of appear out of nowhere. Like it wasn't Jacksonville that beat the Ravens a couple weeks ago. So it happens and it's possible. And I will say, if I put on my coaching hat, and what I would likely be saying to the locker room is like, we don't get, like, the ball doesn't bounce your way that often in a game like it did yesterday for us. Like that ball just like fell in our favor a lot of different times, 4 separate times. I was like, that doesn't happen for no reason. There's a reason that stuff happens, and it's your job to carry it through and make that kind of, make yourself a profit, I guess.
Absolutely. And let's touch on this Browns note. A former Browns player, who you might be familiar with him. He was on these commercials, these progressive commercials, and I think he did something, the Nissan Heisman thing. Oh yeah, Baker Mayfield waived today by the Panthers. They weren't even going to have him dressed as the backup to Darnold and PJ Walker, and they came to a mutual agreement for him to be waived. What a fall for Mr. Mayfield. That is crazy. And he was the guy who's approving people putting out shirts, about being unleashed and all this stuff. Yow. That is not that. I'm going to say that apparently the Browns brass knew what they were doing. They saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Kevin Stefanski made him look a lot better in the year that he had, I guess 2020 it was, where he was really pretty good. He schemed people open, that whole deal. I mean, I guess it's possible that he's just in his head, but I mean, he got so much worse in Carolina than he was in Cleveland even last year. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a bummer for him. I do love Baker's commitment to trying to save face and have it be mutual, a mutual parting rather than, him getting kicked out the door. It is kind of like another Carolina quarterback, though, where I don't know if he's got the ego that he can check to be a backup. So, I assume he's hoping he lands somewhere or gets claimed somewhere where he's going to be a starter, or at least a chance to be a starter. And I know the hot button topic is the Niners. And that would probably be the best possible outcome for him if he wants any shot at not being Johnny Part 2. I mean, at least he doesn't have quite the off-field stuff, although we did have a couple of rumors.
Yeah, the Cheesecake Factory is one I keep hearing about.
Yes, that's also what I was thinking. Yeah.
But yeah, and the interesting thing is that in San Francisco, they've got Josh Johnson as a backup and Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft. And he's playing quarterback. He's playing starting quarterback versus the possibility of the number 1 draft pick, even if San Francisco, because San Francisco doesn't even want him. That's just hilarious to me. That's crazy. So with the Browns, let's see here. Got that. Moving on. So after last week, we were talking about the I don't even know, the terrible performance of Ohio State football against the University of Michigan and how they got dismantled 45-23. And somehow the Buckeyes have backed into the playoffs at the number 4 seed. Thank you very much, Utah Utes, beating Lincoln Riley's team, the USC Trojans. And I mean, I was going to say, well, also thanks TCU for beating Kansas State for beating TCU, but apparently that didn't even matter because they didn't even drop below the 3. They kept them at the 3. So really, I guess we just need to be thankful for Utah for defeating USC. I feel bad, USC kind of caught a tough break there with Caleb Williams getting injured and not being himself, because they sure came out like gangbusters. And I thought, oh crap, this is not good for Ohio State hopefuls. But then obviously the tide turned and Utah put on a performance. They have really built a great program there under Whittingham. And that was pretty impressive. So Ohio State, the number 4 seed in the CFP, a New Year's Eve showdown with the defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, essentially a home game for Georgia.
Yeah.
That's going to be difficult. That is really going to be difficult for Ohio State. And I don't know what to expect out of them. I mean,
it's a tough matchup for sure. I mean, Georgia's number 1 for a reason, right? Hopefully, hopefully you don't try to overlook them thinking too much about a rematch with Michigan. I don't think you can when they're number 1, but I mean, the possibility is there that they're too focused on kind of getting to a rematch. But yeah, I mean, it'll be a interesting thing. I mean, if they do end up winning and they do get Michigan again, what happens to Ryan Day if he loses for a 3rd time in 2 years to Michigan? That potentially you could be saying, yeah, I really didn't want to get into the college football playoff. It might end up not working out for him, or he'll, magically start being interested in NFL jobs that maybe he wouldn't have been interested in otherwise. So a Baker Mayfield tactic. I'll show myself out so that no one thinks it was the other person that wanted me gone.
Exactly. I'll quit before you can fire me. Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. Look, the last time Ohio State got in, slipped in as the 4 seed, they won the whole thing. And my concern is I don't know if they've got the makeup on this team to do what they did in the first year of the CFP, and when they, beating Alabama in the semifinal and then beating Oregon in the title game. But the good news is this: they're going to get some guys back who have been injured. They're probably going to get Mayan Williams back to full strength. Hopefully they'll get Travion Henderson back to full strength. So you get that backfield up to par, and that's going to make a huge difference. They're going to need it. And one of the other key pieces in the receiving core, some people were talking, this is great. You're going to get Jackson Smith and Jigba back. That's going to be awesome. Well,
Yeah.
as Lee Corso would say, not so fast. Jackson Smith and Jigba put out a post today. He has decided with his folks, with his people, that like, hey, I'm going to work on getting 100% healthy, and I'm going to forego the bowl, the playoffs, and focus on the draft combine and so on and so forth. So that's a bit of a downer for Ohio State, but they've operated most of the season without him. So it's not like he was an integral part of the offense all throughout the season, and now you're suddenly losing him. You haven't had him anyway. So I think that you're going to be relying on the guys who've been carrying you all year: Harrison, Abuka, Fleming, to name a few. They've got the talent out there to do it. It's just going to be interesting. I really want to see what CJ Stroud can do when he is staring down the barrel of the defensive lineman for Georgia, because wow, did they put on a show last season. Maybe they do need to call up the coach of Kent State, Sean Lewis, who is going to be joining primetime in Colorado, to find out what the Flashes did against Georgia earlier this season, because the Flashes actually gave them kind of a game. So you never know what you're gonna see out there. One thing I did notice, and is it just me, or is Ryan Day's beard getting darker every season?
Yeah, I would say that's probably accurate. I would not be able to disagree.
That thing is looking kind of greasy. I'm not gonna lie. It's looking kind of glistening. Not sure what he's doing there, but I'd cut back on that. He's got to cut back on that, because other parts are going gray, and generally that's not gonna stay dark. That just is not how it naturally works. So we'll see how that goes. In the other semifinal, you got Michigan taking on TCU. I mean, Michigan, obviously, they are playing very well. Harbaugh's got them prepared. They're doing a good job. But I wouldn't count TCU out yet either. They suffered a tough loss to Kansas State. What were they doing, though? You're going for it? I mean, in overtime, you don't want to just take – is this the analytics? No. We're not going to take the points. We don't believe in our defense. We're just going to squander an opportunity to score here. I don't get it at all. Not one bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they probably have analytics to back it up. I would hope, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I appreciate a coach that takes chances, but not recklessly so, I guess I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I'd love to see the stats. I really would. I would love to talk to some of these analysts to find out how they are coming up with these things. Geez, I wish I was good enough to have a job to do that, but we can't think what we want here. On the topic of Jackson Smith and Jigba, let me ask you this. And here's something from an accountant. Analytics are for accountants. I'm going to agree. I'm going to star that one. We're going to star that one. Yeah, there it is. No, the Jackson Smith and Jigba. All right, with his injury history and not playing this season, is it possible he falls out of the first round?
I don't think so, just because I think of how well like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are doing and how well he played last year, that he seemed to have been maybe even the better of the three of them. I think it's going to be a little tough unless he like does a pro day and doesn't do well. Then like maybe people get a little nervous, but I don't think that they're going to take a chance in letting him pass by and fall to the Browns maybe. But I mean, we can dream. We can dream.
Yeah, and that's you read my mind. You knew exactly where I was going with that one. You know, I would just love to see if he dropped. Oh my gosh, would that be a dream to be able to pick that guy? Because we know how good he is, and can be, not just from the perspective of being, he's got good hands and he's shifty, and we have seen what Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are doing at the NFL level already. So I think that speaks well to them. All right, so moving on, we've talked some Buckeyes, we've talked some Browns. Let's talk a little Cavs. Last night, unfortunately, their shooter's touch ran out in the Garden. They dropped one to the Knicks that were on a 5-game losing streak, and they embarrassed themselves and blundered a game the night before. Cavs lose 92-81. Do you know what they shot last night, Madison?
It was in like the 30s, right? Or was it lower?
No, it was in the 30s. 29 of 83 for 34.9%, and only 8 of 35 from beyond the three-point arc. Mitchell led the way, 23 points, but 8 of 22 shooting, and Garland, 17 points, 5 of 19. That's a rough one. It's one of those games that from the very outset, they were missing open shots. And my question is this: when you've got a team, and in this day and age of the NBA and the jump shooters and stuff, when you start out slowly and you're missing shots, do you ever want to stifle them and say, look, I don't want you to shoot, or go, try to get an easier shot, try to drive the basket? What do you do in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to scheme up an easy look and get a play call in where you can get a lay-in. But even with those, we were missing layups. Like Garland missed probably like 4 or 5 right at the basket. I mean, they're contested, of course, but like those are shots he's usually making. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think you want to outright say like, hey, let's dial it back on the the long 2s and the 3s. For a layup, but you kind of, just put it into your offense. Like, all right, hey, out of this timeout, we're going to set, get Mobley, whoever you want to get going, an easy shot. It just kind of felt like yesterday, it was like people were taking shots they don't normally take in situations that are terrible to, do like that in, where, we really need a bucket. Here goes Jetty for like a floater off balance. And you're just like, that's not what I wanted at all. Or, I mean, it's just like weird shots. I think the whole game was weird. It was a weird sports day in general for offense in Cleveland yesterday. But yeah, it was brutal.
It was. I mean, I was listening as, I was listening during dinner and doing dishes and stuff. And I was stressed out. I was frustrated because I'm like, we kept getting close and could not nail a shot. One other thing that had me just baffled yesterday was the sudden change in tune of referees. They called a lot of travels.
So many travels. Yeah. It's baffling the kinds of travels that they like suddenly want to call, and then some of the ones that they don't call, you're just like, okay, that one before was a travel, this one's not a travel, even though there was like pretty clearly, like, I mean, even still, like you see kind of the typical plays that you think of with NBA where they just don't call travels, where some guy catches the ball in the inbound, takes like 4 steps before he puts the ball down, and like they're like, that's cool, no worries. A guy does a sweep through move and they're like, nope, that is not allowed. And you're just like, okay, it's just like suddenly you put the brakes on something they've been doing for years in the league, and now you're like, no, we can't do that anymore. No more 3 steps like we've been giving you.
Exactly. That's crazy. That's just crazy to me. I just ask for consistency, and I don't know if the NBA told their officials, we're going to make this a point of emphasis, did they pass that on to the players? I don't know what the line of communication is there, but it was crazy that all of a sudden the number of travels called went way up. So I'm not down with that. That's no good. You got to make it clear and you got to be consistent. That's all I ask for. And, that seems to be the toughest thing in sports officiating is to get consistency. It's very, very interesting, the timing of these things. So the Cavs, one of the things that they've had working against them for the past 5 games, since the game in Milwaukee when there was an early injury, Jared Allen hasn't been in the lineup. He has a back contusion, and I saw he's been upgraded to questionable for tomorrow night. LeBron and the Lakers come to town, and suddenly they're not playing as horribly. They're still not playing great, but they're improving as of late. And certainly you can never count them out when you've got players like LeBron and you got Anthony Davis out there. They're not going to be easy to beat. The Cavs beat them out in LA, but it wasn't an easy game. So I don't know what to expect out of them, but I hope that they have Allen back, because that certainly would make things a little bit easier. Get another big body on the boards, and give them a better shot there to defend against Anthony Davis, etc.
Yeah, it always is going to help your defense when you have someone, of Allen's caliber out there. And you're going to need him because Anthony Davis has been pretty much on fire lately. And it helps to have an extra body to throw at him. I don't know if we'll, necessarily leave Allen on him or what the plan will be defensively. But, it's just not quite the same with, and I'm going to butcher his name, Diakite out there. It's not quite the same level that you want. He's played admirably in his role, but it's just we've got an all-star caliber player that's out. But yeah, it's just it's going to be tough. They're going to have to be focused, and it'll be interesting what they do defensively if they kind of run something where they tried to lock down us in the first game. Where we played the Bucks, what kind of defense they're going to throw at them and how they're going to try to shut at least Anthony Davis down. And then, of course, you can't forget about LeBron.
No, definitely can't. And one thing that's also hurting the Cavs, we talked about it with the Browns and their injuries, but the Cavs injuries have, kind of piled up as well. Dean Wade, he comes back and then he gets injured, and he's out, I believe, 3 to 4 weeks with a back injury. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a bummer because he added some tenacity. Some grit out there, and now you got to get somebody to pick it up. You got to have guys like LeVert and Okoro and Osman and Love. Between those guys, they have got to pick up the load and do a little bit more here. So, we shall see. Yes, it is in fact the land of injuries. We have some terrible luck when it comes to injuries. I'm not going to say that we're the only team, but we've had some bad luck. Talk about guys. Talk about earlier. Jimmy Garoppolo. That guy can't catch a break.
Yeah.
He's doing what he does, and then breaks his foot and is done for the rest of the season. Unreal how that happens. So the Cavs story. They got the Lakers tomorrow night. We'll be tuning in for that. See if they can't get a big victory there. And just taking a look here, I was looking at the scoreboard. It looks like we got some action here. Boston's taken out Toronto late in the 4th, and Milwaukee took care of business. And those are the two teams that are currently ahead of the Cavs at this point. So now that we've covered them, I was going to talk about the Guardians, but there's nothing to talk about because they're not doing anything right now. Other teams are making moves in free agency. You got Verlander going to the Mets, and that was the big one as far as and DeGrom leaving the Mets. Letting him fly, but nothing too big going on there. So with that, wanted to just kind of come up with some fun things here. I did forget to mention, if you didn't see it in the news, I mean, this guy was in the news a lot a few weeks ago, but Nike officially cuts ties with Kyrie. And
Oh,
that's kind of crazy. I mean, it's one of those things where he stepped in it. He really stepped in it. And I mean, for him, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe he's like, I don't care. I stand by whatever I say or do, and the money isn't a big deal, but that's pretty big. That's pretty big. I'm sorry. I mean, kind of a
yeah.
misstep.
You
Kind of a misstep.
gotta hit him in the wallet if you want a little bit of change. So be
Exactly.
interested to see what he has to say about that. I did see Ja, I think, was in line for the next Nike shoe.
Oh, he seems like he might be a good ambassador. He hasn't gotten into any trouble, so that's a good thing. But he's got injury problems himself.
Yeah.
He has not been able to avoid the injury bug. All right. So I was watching TV and a couple things come up, and I thought, well, this might be interesting. Infomercials. Okay, I don't know how many of those you see. I don't know how late up at night you're sitting there watching, and times have changed, obviously. But I was thinking about it. Who would win in a fight, Billy Mays or Sham Wow Guy? Who you got?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I will go Sham Wow Guy. I feel like he brings the energy.
He does. Now, do you think he would take the Sham Wow, get it real wet, and then whip Billy Mays? You know, like I mean, that would have been a good move right there. That would hurt if he snaps that. That would be that could leave a mark. That could leave a mark. All right, some Food Network folks on a who you got here. Are you for Ace of Cakes, Duff Goldman, or Cake Boss, Buddy Velastro?
Are we talking about in a fight again?
No, I'm
Just
not
in
gonna go
general.
fight. Just in general, who you got? Are you Ace of Cakes or are you Cake Boss?
I'll go Cake Boss.
You're going Cake Boss. Yeah, I can't go with the Cake Boss. I mean, Ace of Cakes, he is, one of my Hebrew brethren. But I watched the battle between them on Food Network, and I'm I just didn't like Buddy's attitude. I'm gonna pass on him, but he suffered. Did you see the gruesome injury he had with he had a bowling alley at his house and trying to save a pin and got something through his hand. The guy almost lost his career because of a bowling issue. I mean,
not many bowling accidents like that. That's intense. I did not see that. I'll have to look.
That was kind of crazy. Okay. So then I got a couple other what would you choose here? All right. Fast food establishment biscuits. Bojo's, Hardee's, or Popeyes? Who you got?
Assuming Bojo's is Bojangles, Bohungles,
Yes,
as I call
yes, ma'am.
I will go Bojangles because I am from North Carolina and that's how we roll here. You get free biscuits when Carolina scores points, which God knows when that'll happen again.
Yeah, they took a tough one on the chin, losing at Virginia Tech.
Yeah, 4 in a row.
Do you get the Bowberry biscuits?
I do not get the Bowberry biscuits. I usually rock with the regular biscuit or a biscuit. Chicken biscuit's my fave. Although I asked for that up north and people looked at me like I had two heads. They were like, chicken on a biscuit. That's like not a thing. And I'm like, it is though.
Chick-fil-A does chicken on a biscuit.
Yeah, it wasn't I think we asked for it at like McDonald's maybe, but they were like, once you hit a certain point, they're like, no, we don't have that anymore.
Now, we've got another contender here, and I thought about this. I was going to put this in the list. Cheddar Bay biscuits, but they're in a class of their own, and we're just talking plain biscuits here. But yes, Red Lobster is very much up there in contention. I am definitely a fan of the Cheddar Bay biscuits, or at least I was pre-diabetic day. Then the last one, this one, I've got two more. One is Man versus Food. You're a fan of Man versus Food?
I can't say that I watch it, no.
Now, on a regular basis or at all, I'm going to go. This is the old man versus food, Adam Richman, versus the current man versus food, Casey Webb. And
Yeah, wouldn't have even known.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk. I'm gonna give you my opinion. My opinion is I'm an Adam Richman guy. Casey's good, but Adam Richman, he was solid. I'm gonna have to give it there. And we've got Denny. He's going old school with Adam Richman. He was pretty solid. Factory of Sadness for Life. He's an Adam Richman guy. Those were good times there. Those were good times. So now I've got our last thing here, our last segment for tonight's action. We are going to go a little yay or oy vey on, well, not our last segment, because we will go nuCLEar, but we're going to go yay or oy vey on some products that are for sale on TV that you see commercials and ads for. All right. First off, the Snuggie. Yay or oy vey on the Snuggie?
I am an oy vey on the Snuggie. I like my hoodies just fine and not as semi-blankets.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go oy vey on the Snuggie as well. It just looks like you're in a cult. That's really what it looks like. It looks like it's a cult outfit. Not a fan of that there. We've got oy vey from Factory of Sadness for Life and oy vey from Denny. All right. Next product that I want to talk about is the Shake Weight. Shake Weight.
I am familiar with that. Yes.
Yay or oy vey, and was that just a big joke when they created that product?
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I definitely have to go oy vey. It is, I think, maybe a lesson in how people will spend money on just about anything. The fact that it still had a life well beyond its inception, I guess, would be something to that point. But yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna go oy vey on the Shake Weight. That thing is ridiculous. And I was talking to my brother about this, and he was commenting about how the Shake Weight, even they had some good comedy with it. On South Park. I have not caught the episode. Apparently, I need to get caught up on these things. My brother, he's like a connoisseur of terrible as seen on TV products. He got the Save-A-Blade, and he lost some skin. Apparently, it didn't sharpen as the blade evenly. So Save-A-Blade, but lose some skin. Also, he got the ab shocker, the pulsating thing going on there. Yeah, it didn't work so much for him there. All right, two more yay or oy veys on as seen on TV. An ab roller. The ab roller, yay or oy vey?
I will say oy vey on principle because I think they try to sell you on these like easy fix products like that. And that's just an inaccurate depiction of what it would be like. You got to actually put in some effort to do that, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to go oy vey.
Yeah, I would definitely. Oh, wait a second. Apparently we've got someone who's our Factory of Sadness, apparently oy vey because it doesn't work. He must be familiar with the ab roller. I actually had some friends in college who made their own ab rollers. I think they took a wheel from like a lawnmower and put a bar through it, and they were making their own ab roller. So, I mean, hey, that's called being ingenious, crafty, and so on and so forth. All right, last one, and this one is. I mean, I was young when this is around. This is probably, before your time, but you never know. You never know. I thought I'd throw it out there. The Thigh Master with Suzanne Summers.
I have heard of it, but it is maybe before my time. Yeah, I again will say oy vey on principle because it's just you're trying to sell people on something that's like not really like the cure-all that you're making it out to be, I think.
Right. I mean, like, how much of that was... And some of these products, is it not really so much the product, but they're trying to sell. They're trying to sell not promiscuity, but you get where I'm going here. They're selling Suzanne Summers, and that was ridiculous. So I know it's short notice, and this is a special edition of Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land here, presented by Buzz Sports CLE. But with all that being said, all that's going on, what are you going nuclear on this week, Madison?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what I was going to pick to talk about today. And then I watched the end of the Carolina National Championship game in women's soccer, where with 16 seconds to go, our keeper got tackled into the goal to no call, and UCLA scored the game-tying goal to take it to overtime. And then they eventually won in overtime. After several very scary corners of similar situations where they're packed around the keeper, not quite shoving. I understand the desperation. 16 seconds left. If you get called for a foul, you were just trying to, score a goal, whatever. And hey, you may get away with it, as they did. And that has been entirely frustrating because, they played really well. They, I think, lost to UCLA in the year. So it was a nice comeback. They were up 2 goals with 80 minutes, 80 minutes. So it's a bummer. It's not all about that, but it does suck when a referee kind of swallows the whistle, as we often know in the land, that they do that from time to time, and it costs you a game. So that's my thing for today, at least. I might be mad about that for a couple days. I think maybe it's retribution. Carolina played UNC Charlotte. My brother-in-law was on the team at Charlotte. And they got a PK that was probably not deserved. Carolina did to win the national championship against Charlotte. So maybe it was a little bit of retribution for that, but still a bummer. Not happy about it.
Fair enough. I agree. And again, like you said, people swallowing the whistle at key moments, definitely something we are familiar with in the land, or pulling out the whistle and blowing it at an inappropriate time. I had forgotten to mention, it crossed my mind, on the interception return for a touchdown. Did you hear the whistle?
I didn't.
Yeah, I heard the whistle and was like, are they going to say that this ball hit the stupid ground? And, fortunately, they didn't say that. And as Denny points out, the NFL referees are straight trash. I'm 100% in agreement with that. I am not happy with their inconsistency. Maybe give them a full-time job and pay him well, and then maybe they can be more, on top of these things. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what has me going nuclear? You talked about Ticketmaster a couple weeks ago, the Taylor Swift debacle.
Yes.
Okay. What has me going nuclear are the FU fees, the transaction fees, the this fee, the that fee. I was looking into some sites for some sporting event tickets. And I'm looking on Vivid Seats, I'm looking on Geek Seats, or I'm looking on Ticketmaster. And you go through each step of the process and you're like, oh, hey, this is not a bad price. This is a good price on this ticket. I'm down with that. You're all right. And then they give you a total with crazy fees on it, over like $20, almost $30. So if you're talking a $60 ticket and almost another 50% markup for the stupid fees, I'm like, This is absolutely ridiculous. I think that they have got to be more transparent when you're looking, at the prices. And I'm not familiar with the take the price and multiply by 2, because I am not a ticket aficionado. I don't do anything. I sit around my house and I can watch sports and I complain about it. It's fantastic. It's a great life. But, come on, man. It's the same way when you go to the store and you're trying to compare 2 products from one store to another. You're like, I'm going to get the Bounty paper towels here. Or should I get the Bounty paper towels there? Oh, wait a second. This one is 12 equals 30 rolls. This one, 12 equals 27 rolls. So you can't compare them. They screw you. They're all screwing us. And that's the way I feel about these FU fees, these, these people with the grocery stores, with all kinds of shopping experiences, whether you're looking for a TV, a computer, a this or that, you can't compare. They are screwing us. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not happy as a consumer, and I shouldn't be subjected to this. I think that, there's the whole Truth in Lending Act. Well, I think you got to have truth in advertising. You got to have truth in the product labels. Don't quit screwing people. Just quit screwing people. And lastly, but not leastly, because this afternoon, just, driving is always an adventure. And I don't understand the logic of people. So I go to my son's school to pick him up from band practice. They got to get ready for this jolly old concert.
Mm-hmm.
And I get behind these people. They have decided, instead of parking, this is after school, there are plenty of places to park. No, we're going to pull up to the curb, and then we're going to have a line that goes out into the road. And then you're stuck in the road, and you're sitting there waiting, wasting gas. I'm like, will you just pull into the parking lot and park your stinking car, you lazy turd? Okay? Pull into the parking lot, park your car, quit causing a traffic jam. What a bunch of stinking morons. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And that's the type of thing that gets my blood pressure going. And I don't need that. I don't need this. We ain't got time for that. We just don't have time for that. And folks, that has what got me going nuCLEar today. And folks, want to thank you for tuning in to this special Victory Monday edition of Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. We are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. And you can follow me on Twitter at egreen4325. And you can follow Madison at madtravels24. Follow the show, please, and subscribe. View and subscribe. Going nuCLEar CLE. Want to thank Craig Fountain and Buzz Sports CLE for getting this program on the air. Madison, thank you so much for your flexibility. Glad to have you here. And hopefully by next week, we'll be talking about maybe another Browns victory. I don't know. We got 2 in a row. Maybe there's some Lake Erie luck out there.
Crazier things have happened.
Absolutely. All right, Madison. For Madison Delaney, I'm Ethan Greenberg. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.